consequences. It was a choice she made, a terrible choice, and the results we know. Obviously, she has no prior record or history, unlike Mr. Baker. So we'd ask the court to impose a less serious sentence of 25 years to life as opposed to life without parole, which I believe the court does have the discretion to do, and we ask the court to do so.
Thank you. Anything else?
No.
Thank you. The people.
Yes, Your Honor. Obviously, I'm sure it comes as no surprise to the court that people categorically disagree with defense counsel's categorization of what went down in this case. This is a defendant who is extremely deserving of the sentence of life without parole. I know from past history in our office, perhaps had there been a different administration, I remember a case regarding the Green Widow who did something similar to this, and she received the death penalty. This is one of the most premeditated, calculated, devious murder conspiracies I've prosecuted during my 31 years at the District Attorney's Office. And as this court knows, I have handled numerous cases involving serial killers. This is a defendant who, but for her actions and her decisions, her husband, Fabio Sementilli, who gets lost in all of this circus that goes on every time we have one of these cases, he would still be alive today. This was a completely senseless murder driven solely by this defendant's greed and her lust, which we saw on full display during the trial that took place over the course of several months this year, based on her desire to get rid of her husband because he no longer served her purposes, and she needed to have a way to fund her life together with Robert Baker, who she chose over her husband, and whether her kids want to believe it or not, over her children, because they never ever even came up in any of the conversations that she had with so many people who testified in this matter. It's incredibly despicable as far as motives go, because again, without her and her plotting and her planning the murder of her husband, he would be alive today. But then you add to it the lengths this defendant went to in order to conceal and destroy evidence, and how time and time again she got others to do her dirty work for her, including her lover, so that he could get the murder done and she could take a step back and pretend to still be this loving wife, which we all know was a complete act. And once and again, it showed through the admissions that she was caught making in the jail lockup, through the letters about getting rid of her husband and wanting to marry Robert Baker, through the entire complex setup of this time frame for that day, shows a level of sophistication and planning that I rarely see in these kinds of questions, these kinds of cases. There is no question but that this defendant was the mastermind behind the murder of Fabio Sementilli. One only had to listen to Robert Baker's testimony for about 10 minutes before you got the clear picture of who was the mastermind between the two. Mr. Baker isn't smart enough to even follow up his lies with consistency. There was nothing that was credible about his testimony, and the jury so found. In addition to that, we had the testimony from Christopher Austin, and while he was kept out of the center of the conspiracy between the defendant and her lover, Robert Baker, he knew enough that this was being done at her behest. And as I've said from the beginning of the trial, this case was about the ultimate betrayal. This was one that I'm sure Fabio Sementilli never could have imagined in his wildest nightmares was coming, that his wife was literally plotting his murder with her lover. It's an absolute betrayal, not only of Fabio Sementilli, the victim in this case, but of her children, who have been brainwashed by her lies and her deception. And that's their choice. They're adults now. If they choose not to face the truth, that's on them. But we're here to do a job. We've done our job. The jury did their job. And we're here to hold the defendant, the main player, the heavy in this case, responsible for her actions. She used her family, her children, her parents, her sister, to do her dirty work for her, to lie to their father in order to cover up this scandalous affair that she had been having for at least a year, and God knows what else she used them for. She manipulated everybody, all of her friends, all of her family, anybody who came into contact with her for the most minor of things, such as buying a vehicle. We heard about that. Fabio's co-workers, his colleagues from a multi-billion-dollar company, fell all over themselves trying to help her and the family after the murder, and yet they were treated with such disgust and disdain on the stand, as if those people somehow had done something wrong because they were reaching out to help the defendant, who they thought was this innocent widow who had lost her husband by some horrific tragedy, not of her own making. What we have in this case, just to be clear, although I think it was very clear through the trial, was the fact that this defendant and Robert Baker are a perfect match. You have two sociopaths who are completely incapable of any feeling of remorse or guilt. From the beginning until the end, and even now, the defendant is sewing a news story about how she somehow was taken advantage of by Robert Baker. And the stories, the defenses just continue to change as she sits in the jail. I think she's probably even convinced herself of that at this point, which is completely typical of sociopathic behavior. They only feel sorry for themselves, believing they're the true victims here. It was proven over and over and over again by their appalling recorded conversations in custody. And then you have the outrageous manner that this defendant and her lover chose in order to execute Fabio Sementilli, to murder him in his own backyard, to stab him to death in such an egregious and evil manner as he was relaxing and working out at the pool, thinking that he had his whole life in front of him as his 50th birthday was quickly approaching, having bought himself finally at the age of 49 and a half a used Porsche because he felt like he had earned the right to do that. And yet his entire life, his entire future was savagely taken from him for absolutely no reason, stabbed to death in his own backyard. And again, we're talking in this case about a victim who was totally innocent, totally vulnerable. As much as she now tries to dirty him up and convince her daughters, oh, he was a dirtbag and he was having an affair, none of that had any evidence to support it. It's just, once again, a way to try to make herself look better, which is, again, typical of sociopathic behavior. To prey on an unsuspecting, completely unarmed, vulnerable, innocent victim who was viciously slaughtered as if his life had no meaning, when she could have just elected to divorce him. And we've seen this before, time and time again, as if his life had no value. And she and her lover showed Fabio Sementilli no mercy. She's not deserving of any mercy of this court. She hasn't admitted to anything that she's done. She hasn't taken any responsibility for her actions in this case. She's just made one excuse after another, after another, after another, as she will continue to prey on people until the day she dies. I can only hope, as his family does, that Fabio at some point lost consciousness fairly quickly with the loss of blood before he bled out. And I'm sure that at no point in time as he lay there dying, unless he was told by Robert Baker, why his life had to end this way. And then to learn that she had planned this murder with Baker to have Fabio slayed, initially in a public parking lot, as the court recalls, the night before he was murdered on January 22nd, a Sunday night, when she sent him out to pick up dinner. The sheer arrogance of this defendant is incredibly stunning and shocking, caring not at all for how this would destroy her daughter's lives and the cloud that they will forever live under now going forward based on the Sementilli name and what that means. And I know that the law says a jury can't make a decision based on emotion. And so they didn't really get to learn much about who Fabio Sementilli was. But I did, over the course of almost 9 years as I handled this case. I must have spoken to over 200 people in the course of my investigation and preparation of this case. And I couldn't find anybody, although I asked, because I was sure there had to be a skeleton somewhere. I couldn't find anyone who didn't ardently believe that Fabio Sementilli was one of the most genuine, wonderful people they had ever met or ever worked with or ever worked for. Not one person had one bad word ever to say about him. He was beloved, maybe not by his wife, but by everybody else, including his ex-wife. And that says a lot. He was a thoroughly decent human being who wanted the best for everybody he came in contact with. And that's a very unique, rare individual in this extremely difficult world that we live in today. The most important thing to him, according to everybody I spoke to, was his family. And that's why this murder was such a betrayal by his wife. This is also, as I've said, a defendant who perpetuated numerous lies for almost a decade. She's a habitual liar. We presented a ton of evidence regarding that. She has zero remorse. She's taken no responsibility for the murder of her devoted husband, who was devoted to her for over 20 years, even before they were married. And she clearly has earned the right to spend the rest of her life in prison. There was such overwhelming evidence in this case as to guilt, as well as to the special circumstances regarding the murder for financial gain, such as it was at some point the court prohibited us from putting on any more witnesses because there was so much evidence regarding the life insurance, as well as all of the other policies and retirement accounts and monies that Fabio had accumulated over and through his own hard work over decades, bringing himself up from nothing to a hairdresser, to a celebrity hairdresser, to a platform artist, to a vice president of a multi-billion-dollar company, as well as the special circumstance in this case of lying in wait, which we heard in excruciating detail from the defendant's lover, Robert Baker. So at this point, I think that the people and the family, as well as all of his close friends and some of his co-workers, are very anxious for this court to bring justice to this case at long last.
Your Honor, could I respond briefly?
Normally I do not allow that, but I'll allow a brief statement by you.
Your Honor, I didn't know this was going to be a repeat of our closing argument. I just want to say that the prosecution, Ms. Silverman, has every right to comment on the conduct and the jury verdict regarding the defendant. I do not believe she has the right to demean her family, her daughters, her sister, all of whom know Monica Sementilli far better than the prosecutor, and who continue to believe in her innocence, her background, who she was before this terrible incident, and who she remains. She will be paying for the rest of her life whatever the court decides. But the idea that her family, who testified on her behalf, somehow makes them less individuals who care about their father or their mother-in-law or care less about what occurred here is simply wrong. They love their daughter, and they love their sister, and they love their mother. And that is their right. And they testified under oath here what they felt and believed and still believe. I do not think it's proper for the court to consider, and I don't think the court will, but for the prosecution to attempt to demean their character and their love for their mother and their sister, as Ms. Silverman has just done, and I object to it.
All right, thank you. Ms. Simmons, anything further?
Yeah, I did no such thing.
Are there different impact statements, please?
There are.
All right, if I can, I'm addressing all those that are going to testify or give a statement. You do so at the podium. Identify yourself, please, and you talk to me. You do not talk to the defendant.
Good morning. My name is Luigi Sementilli. I'm Fabio Sementilli's son from his first marriage. One day, Zarathustra had fallen asleep under a fig tree, owing to the heat, with his arms over his face. And there came an adder, and it bit him in the neck, so that Zarathustra screamed with pain. When he had taken his arm from his face, he looked at the serpent, and then did it recognize the eyes of Zarathustra, wriggled awkwardly, and tried to get away. "Not at all," said Zarathustra, "as thou hast not yet received my thanks. Thou hast awakened me in time. My journey is yet long." "Thy journey is short," said the adder sadly. "My poison is fatal." But Zarathustra smiled and said, "When did ever a dragon die of a serpent's poison? Take thy poison back. Thou art not rich enough to present it to me." Then fell the adder again on his neck and licked his wound. I wish I could embody this Nietzschean virtue. I always thought that when this moment came, I'd have a holster full of the nastiest, most vengeful and vitriolic words I could possibly muster to do my part in speaking truth to power and righteousness to evil. But that's not what I'm going to do here today. I have no poison to give back to the adder. Because I've come to believe that you become what you behold. And if I hold on to cruel, hateful, and vindictive thoughts, then I too will become a cruel, hateful, and vindictive person. And I refuse to be made worse from this experience. Instead, through my own alchemy, I transmute the poison into a life-affirming vital essence to become a better and more resilient version of myself. That is my metamorphosis. I will now recite one more reading from a work of fiction, and that will conclude my statement. By rights, we shouldn't even be here, but we are. It's like in the great stories, the ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were, and sometimes you didn't want to know the end, because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing, this shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come, and when the sun shines, it will shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you, that meant something, even if you were too small to understand why. But I think I do understand. I know now. Folks in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, but they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to? That there's some good in this world, and it's worth fighting for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sementilli.
Judge Cohen. I'm on here on behalf of my wife, Vanessa Rondinelli, which is Morella's daughter and the niece of the defendant. So, my name is Vanessa Rondinelli. I'm Monica Sementilli's daughter and Fabio's niece and goddaughter. I am also a mom, a wife, a physician, and I wouldn't be who I am today if it weren't for my Uncle Fabio. The impact that this murder and trial has on our family is beyond words. Luckily, the impact that my Uncle Fabio has on our family is much more profound and meaningful. Each of us are headstrong and moving forward because that's who he was and that's how he encouraged us to be. We all have powerful memories of him and our family, together and individually, that we won't let go of. Fabio knew so many people and somehow made each person feel important, worthy, and seen. His presence was also magnificent, and even though he's gone, his name and legacy magnificently echo through our homes and in our salons. No one was able to learn who he was as a person during the trial, but the opportunity that we have today to bring this to light will hopefully let us know how much we loved him. Monica was the only person in this trial who truly know how much he was loved. This was not a crime of passion, self-defense, or planned in haste. This was a planned murder of a man, a father, an uncle, a brother, a son, a mentor, and a friend. To see her fake expressions and lack of remorse for this wicked crime is heartbreaking. What a shame that she didn't believe the incredible team at the LAPD would have ever pieced this together in her pathetic master plan. She came to my medical school graduation just a few days before she was arrested on behalf of my uncle. She wickedly deceived us for 6 months after the murder, speaking on behalf of him, representing him at all of our meaningful occasions. Our celebrations of life are poisoned with her presence. Watching her shake her head in disbelief and fake sad faces make me want to vomit. She knows what she did. She deserves to spend the rest of her life regretting it. Judge Cohen, I trust that you consider how much Fabio's loss has negatively impacted our family, not only because he was an incredible person, but because of how heinous this murder was, and the incredible damage Monica has done to our family and her own. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Isabel Picillo. I'm married to Daniel Picillo, one of Fabio Sementilli's nephews. I've never had the chance to meet Fabio. Over the years, I've heard countless stories about him, stories that painted the picture of a kind, generous, and remarkable man. But that's all I'll ever have, other people's memories and stories. I'll never get a chance to know him myself. That opportunity was stolen from me by Monica. Because of her, I've had to watch my husband and his incredible family relive a trauma so deep, so devastating that the wounds it left will never fully heal. Because of her, my first year of marriage was not filled with the typical joys, celebrating new beginnings and building a life together. Instead, every happy moment was shadowed by grief. Every celebration came with a painful reminder of what was lost. The hardest part has been watching my best friend, my husband, struggle. I've seen him consumed by sadness, anger, and depression. I've sat beside him feeling helpless, knowing there was little I can do other than just be there and hold space for his pain. Monica, you've caused me sleepless nights, stress, constant worry, not just for Daniel, but his entire family. During the trial, I sat in this courtroom for days, followed along when I couldn't be here in person. The evidence presented was overwhelming. It revealed the cold, calculated nature of who she really is. I'm grateful the jury saw the truth and delivered the only just verdict, which is guilty. Monica deserves to be exactly where she is today, in that ugly jumpsuit. In fact, I believe she deserves worse for orchestrating this horrific murder and destroying not only her own life, but the lives of so many others who must now grow up knowing who she is. Monica's sentencing doesn't undo the pain, but it sets us on the right path to begin healing. Thank you, Your Honor.
Honor. My name is Stephanie Wella, and I am Fabio's niece by marriage. Your Honor, I stand here today a woman traumatized, angry, and heartbroken. As Fabio's niece, I have lived almost a decade with unimaginable grief, betrayal, and pain. I am here not only as a family member who loved Fabio deeply, but also as a colleague in the hair industry who witnessed his brilliance firsthand. My life was shattered the day he was taken from us. In a way so brutal, so senseless, and so deliberate, it defies comprehension. On January 23rd, 2017, almost 9 years ago, life as I knew it ended. That was the day my uncle, Fabio Sementilli, was brutally stabbed to death in the backyard of his own home on my birthday. The same home where he had built a life, raised a family, and welcomed people with open arms. And the same home where his wife, Monica Sementilli, the woman he trusted more than anyone, conspired to have him murdered. Fabio Sementilli was everything his killer, Monica Sementilli, is not. He was kind, he was loyal, he was generous, he lifted people up, he didn't destroy them. He led with integrity, he loved with his whole heart. He made people feel seen, valued, safe, and inspired. Fabio brought joy, wisdom, and light to the world and everyone around him. Monica Sementilli brings darkness, manipulation, deceit, destruction, and death. Fabio gave his entire life to building others up. Monica spent years secretly tearing his life down. Fabio was loved. Monica is despised. Fabio Sementilli wasn't my uncle by blood, but he was my uncle in every way that truly mattered. He was family. He taught me to believe in myself, to chase my dreams, and to build honest relationships. He showed me the importance of family, family created through friendship, through work, and through love. He taught me about an industry he loved deeply. And I feel incredibly fortunate to have witnessed his Big Daddy magic in full force. Both on stage and behind the scenes. Fabio carried himself with grace, humility, laughter, and joy. He was always the first to raise his hand to tell a joke, to lighten the mood, to laugh until you couldn't breathe. He was the first to greet you with a giant smile, to run over and wrap you in one of his unforgettable bear hugs. And for me, he was always the first to say, "Hey, Angel, how are you?" Fabio's favorite saying, "Charge the mountain," has become a daily mantra for me and my family. For 8 years since Fabio was brutally and senselessly taken from us, that phrase has helped us get through. It reminds us to push forward, even when we are broken. And losing him is not just pain, it's betrayal. Fabio was taken from us by the very person he and our family trusted most. What happened wasn't random, it was planned, calculated, evil. And it came from someone who shared his home, his life, and his heart. It came from a woman my family showed love and respect to for over 20 years. The same woman who smiled in our faces while plotting Fabio's murder behind our backs. The same woman we comforted, supported, and defended while she betrayed us all. The same woman who played the grieving widow while secretly having an affair with a convicted sex offender, conspiring with him to kill her husband. And so today, Your Honor, I stand before the monster who deceived us all and who set this entire plan in motion, who lied, who schemed, who manipulated, and who murdered. Monica is the reason my family is broken. The reason my family knows names like Robert Baker and Christopher Austin. The reason Fabio is dead. The reason we have all been dragged through this unbearable, lifelong nightmare. the reason a 2.5-month trial was held, and the reason we are all here today. None of us sitting in this courtroom today could have possibly imagined the level of pain, betrayal, and sheer evil that would rip through our lives and redefine who we are. That is the evil of Monica Sementilli, an adulterer whose selfishness, treachery, and complete absence of human decency shattered our family, destroyed the man who trusted her most, and left us all with a life sentence of grief, rage, and unanswered questions. A monster who was found guilty on April 11th in this very courtroom by 12 unbiased jurors. Guilty of first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, murder by means of lying in wait, and murder for financial gain. 12 strangers, 12 people with no connection to our family. And yet, after hearing the evidence, after seeing the lies and the cruelty laid bare, they saw the truth as clearly as we always have. I remember that phone call from my husband. The call that shattered everything. He told me Fabio had been murdered. I dropped to my knees in pure grief. Pain shot through my body like electricity. I was sick to my stomach. I couldn't make sense of what I was hearing. And even though that day was almost 9 years ago, I remember it like it happened yesterday. The details are burned into my memory. Every moment, every word. I remember my husband yelling through the phone, "They killed him. They killed my uncle." I remember the horror that gripped me. I laid awake that entire night, unable to close my eyes, tears streaming down my face, praying to God that this was some kind of sick joke, that I'd wake up and it would all be a mistake, that Fabio would still be alive, and that things would go back to how they were. But they didn't, and they never will. Almost 9 years later, the pain has not faded. The trauma of what happened to Fabio, of how he was taken from us, still haunts me as deeply today as it did the moment I first heard the news. It is a relentless, paralyzing grief, a kind of sadness that doesn't ease with time. It lives in me. It shapes my everyday. It has stolen my peace, my sleep, and the sense of safety I once had. This wasn't just a loss. It was a brutal, calculated murder, and I am still living with the wreckage. After the murder, I remember how I began to question things that didn't seem right. I was trying to make sense of something so senseless, and it never made sense. I couldn't believe that just days after Fabio was brutally murdered in his own backyard, the wake was held in the very place where his life had been violently taken, complete with a carefully arranged shrine by his devoted wife. I was terrified that my husband had to be in that house. Who would want to gather there? How could Monica find comfort in a home where her husband had just been murdered? How was she able to compose a memorial for Fabio just days after finding him dead? It felt disturbing and unnatural. I couldn't believe that my husband and family members were asked to take Fabio's belongings, his tools, his suits, his jewelry, back to Canada. It felt cold and cruel. Just days after Fabio was brutally murdered, it felt like there was already a rush to erase him.
Please turn off electronic devices, please.
To move on. Wouldn't you want every reminder of him close? Especially after losing him so suddenly and so violently? It didn't feel like grief, it felt like guilt. Nothing felt right, nothing made sense. The details of the murder Monica described never pointed to a robbery. Nothing of value was taken except for my uncle's life. Even the Porsche was found days later abandoned but untouched. What could possibly be the motive? What was the intent? Fabio had no enemies. He was loved and adored by everyone. I never believed for a second that this was a case of wrong place, wrong time. Because Fabio was an innocent man, a good man. Our family went in circles, months after months, combing through all the details, envisioning different scenarios of what could have possibly happened that day, over and over and over and over again into exhaustion. We now know that Fabio was targeted. This was a cold, calculated conspiracy, a plan orchestrated by his own wife, a plan rooted in greed, betrayal, and staggering cruelty. She wanted his money, she wanted her freedom, she wanted a new life, and she was willing to have her husband butchered to get it. And at the time, the full truth hadn't revealed itself yet, not then. But now I see it for exactly what it was. A premeditated execution carried out by cowards, driven by a woman with no soul. At the funeral, Monica wore black gloves and a dramatic black veil that covered her face. I remember a chill running down my spine the moment I saw her. But I pushed that feeling away because this was Fabio's wife. I remember the whispers, the hushed conversations, the quiet observations. People were saying she wouldn't make eye contact, that she didn't even remember who they were, that something felt off. And then a good friend of mine turned to me and asked, how was their marriage? Did they get along? I was shocked, offended. In my mind, they were the most beautiful couple, and they adored each other. Because that's what we all believed. And from that point on, there was a string of events that just never felt right. His cremation, the 1-month memorial mass, Easter with my family. We were shamed for asking about the investigation, told not to speak of that day or contact police. We were silenced into pretending things were normal when nothing was. And then Monica continued to live in that house. This wasn't just any house, it was a crime scene. It was the place where her children lost their father in the most violent, terrifying way imaginable. And still no urgency to restore the security system and no concern for her daughter's safety. I was living thousands of miles away and I was terrified for them. I felt hopeless. I now know that Monica never needed protection because she had a very clear understanding of exactly who the killers were, and she was one of them. My family was manipulated into believing that all of these devious actions were somehow normal, that this was just grief, that Monica was just doing her best to cope. Out of love and respect for Fabio, we silenced ourselves because we believed that honoring her was what Fabio would have wanted, because we loved him that much. I remember the day of my youngest child's baptism, April 2nd, 2017. My mother-in-law and Morella, devastated and heartbroken, were speaking on the phone with Monica. They wanted so desperately to comfort her, to check in on her and the girls. to help her through her grief, even from thousands of miles away. And Monica, you made them believe you were inconsolable. You cried on the phone. You were too distraught to talk. You told them it's just not a good day for me. And they believed you because they loved you, because they trusted you. But in court, we learned the truth. Just days before that call, you were in Las Vegas with your lover and co-conspirator, Robert Baker. You weren't grieving, you were partying. You were parading around like a teenager. You were grabbing crotches. You were whoring yourself out to the man who you conspired with to slaughter Fabio, acting like a desperate, soulless woman with no shame, no conscience, and no remorse. But the truth is, that wasn't an act. That was you being exactly who you are. Desperate, soulless, and utterly devoid of any humanity. You're diabolical, evil, and sick. And that Vegas trip, that was one of just the many trips with your murdering lover in the 6 months before law enforcement could catch up with you. The most insulting of them all was the I'm gonna go walk a golf course alone in Fabio's honor trip. By then, even your own family was starting to see through the lies. Even they couldn't pretend anymore. I was there as you accepted the Lifetime Achievement Award on behalf of the man you murdered. The man loved and adored by every single person on that stage and in that room. Your performance didn't fool anyone. Your act was crumbling, and your bullshit was impossible to ignore. June 14th, 2017, the puzzle that had tormented me with sleepless nights and endless grief finally fit together. You, Monica, and your vile lover, Robert Baker, were arrested for the murder of Fabio Sementilli. I remember hearing the news and feeling for the first time like the weight of grief that had clung to my soul was finally lifted. Suddenly it all made sense, every single piece of it, every unanswered question, every gut instinct, it all fit together to tell the story of who you really are. That night, after 6 long, agonizing months, I cried tears of relief. But that relief was short-lived. Because the arrest didn't just bring answers, it opened the floodgates to the truth. And the truth was even more horrifying than anything I could have ever possibly imagined. Sitting through this trial, watching you smirk and scribble, while I listened to every horrifying detail, was the most painful experience of my life. I was sick to my core, broken. Never in my darkest nightmares could I have imagined an 18-month torrid sexual affair between Monica Sementilli and a convicted sex offender named Robert Baker. Never could I have conceived that these two despicable, vile creatures would be scheming and plotting Fabio's death to steal his life insurance money and start a new life together. Never in all of time would I have imagined Monica living a double life so evil, so depraved, that she would set up her own husband to die, while the rest of us watched her Instagram posts peg her as the grieving, devoted wife. But perhaps the most horrifying part of it all, never could I have imagined that she had planned this execution so that her youngest daughter would be the one to arrive home first, so that her own child would be the one to discover her father's lifeless body, brutally stabbed to death. Only a devil could carry out something so calculated, so cruel, and so utterly heartless against her own child. Never could I have foreseen the mountain of evidence collected by the LAPD, A mountain so overwhelming, so undeniable, that it would prove beyond any reasonable doubt that Monica Sementilli orchestrated the murder of Fabio Sementilli. Never in my worst nightmares could I have imagined hearing her and her murdering lover, in their own words, recorded from jail, casually dissecting the murder they committed. Monica didn't sound broken, she sounded proud, wicked, calculated. I was sickened to hear her profess her love for the man who police told her slaughtered her husband. My poor uncle had no idea the devil that lay beside him. On the recordings, you could hear the two of them whispering, laughing, and scheming, spewing lies to get the evidence to fit their version of reality. I was listening to the minds of two full-fledged, cold-blooded criminals, and I was sick. They discussed the lack of video surveillance, not just on the day of the murder, but even mentioning the attempt the day before. They discussed the DNA. They spun a cover story so outrageous, it was an insult to all of us. She panicked over her Viber messages, wiped a computer clean, and even talked about erasing the Sementilli name. This is a betrayal so deep, it is unforgivable. Never once did we hear sadness. Never once did she express grief over the loss of her husband, the father of her children, the man she spent 20 years with. She never once, since her arrest, has said Fabio's name. She never begged for justice. She never pleaded for the police to find the real killers, because she is the real killer. Fabio's death was never a trauma for Monica. Instead, it was an obstacle, something she had to get through and move out of the way so that she could begin her new life of freedom. That's why it was so easy for her to lie and manipulate the facts surrounding his murder. She wasn't distraught, she had planned it. She had been so far removed from the reality of what she was doing for so long that by the time it happened, it meant nothing to her. It meant nothing for her to casually tell a car salesperson that Fabio had been murdered in his truck, just to get a better deal, just to get sympathy from strangers, even though that was a lie. Monica used her husband's murder for her own benefit. Deals on cars, on trips, on hotels. Any way she could spin his death to her advantage, she did. And she did it without remorse, because his death never mattered to her. His loss meant nothing, and she treated it exactly that way. And never ever could I have imagined that on the exact same days we were mourning Fabio, at his wake and his funeral, crying together, trying to survive this nightmare, Monica was sending sexually explicit, vulgar, pornographic images to Robert Baker of herself from her parents' home, all while still wearing her wedding ring. She wore gloves and veil at the funeral, a costume of mourning, while privately desecrating Fabio's memory behind closed doors. It is shameless and vile. Monica, you are the most despicable and evil of all mankind. You are a liar, a deceitful manipulator, an adulterer, and a murderer. A man who loved you, trusted you, and built a life with you was brutally murdered. And you cremated him without discussion, without dignity, and placed his remains in someone else's family plot, as if that was good enough. No headstone, no plaque, no resting place that honors who he was, a devoted father, a respected professional, a man beloved by so many. You claimed you had no money to bury him properly, but somehow you had money for Vegas, you had money for getaways with the man who murdered your husband, you had money for your new life, but not for a grave. It is shameful on every level. The depth of your manipulation didn't stop with our family. Your lies didn't just poison us or deceive Fabio's friends and colleagues. It suffocated your own family. You wrapped them so tightly in your web of deception that they clung to denial, even with the truth staring them in the face. Their denial added new layers to our grief. The man they claimed to have treated like their own son and brother, a man who respected and loved them. They showed their love in return by standing behind the one who orchestrated his murder, the one who left the door unlocked and let the killers in. Robert Baker and Christopher Austin would have never crossed paths with Fabio, never, if it weren't for Monica and her despicable, adulterous lifestyle. Monica put those men into his life, and Monica signed his death warrant. And to be clear about one thing, every single piece of evidence collected and presented in this case was created by Monica. Every person she lied to, manipulated, used, deceived, and betrayed came forward to tell the truth and expose the real monster she is. The pornographic images, the digital evidence, the deleted emails, the digital surveillance, the lies to law enforcement, the safe, the Viber messages, the deceit around the home security system, Robert Baker, her phone code, the same phone from which she sent thousands of messages to her lover, messages plotting the murder of her husband. The jail recordings, the intercepted calls, and those disgusting jail letters, and on and on and on. All of that came from her, not the police, not the prosecutors, not the judge, not the court, not Fabio's friends and families. She built the Mount Everest of evidence that revealed her true self, a sick, twisted, depraved, demonic, diabolical monster. And let's also be very clear about this. The victim in this case is Fabio Sementilli, the man she conspired to kill with her lover. And the other victims? Every single person who loved him. Every single person she manipulated, deceived, and lied to. They are the victims of her evil. And every single one of them is glad that she is exactly where she belongs, for eternity. Your Honor, today I stand before you in honor of Fabio. I stand in truth, in pain, but in strength. As Fabio always told me, charge the mountain. Today I am charging that mountain. For him, for our family, for every single person whose life was touched by Fabio Sementilli's light and shattered by Monica Sementilli's darkness. We are the victims, and she is exactly where she belongs. Your Honor, we beg this court to sentence Monica Sementilli to the maximum penalty allowed under the law, so that she never again walks free and never again breathes the fresh air of the life she so brutally stole. Let her spend the rest of her days behind bars, vanishing into the darkness that mirrors her soul. Our family deserves peace, knowing that, like a rabid animal, she has been locked away, trapped in the cage of her own destruction for eternity. Let us never again speak her name in the same breath as Fabio's. Let us forget everything about her, who she was, who she pretended to be, and who she actually is, for she is nothing. Nothing but a hollow shell, a soul devoid of any humanity. Let her be haunted for the rest of her days by Fabio's voice, his laughter, and his face, every single time she closes her eyes. There will be no peace, no silence, just the constant echo of the man she betrayed and destroyed, the man she will never outrun, even in her sleep. Let her be forgotten as the clump of nothingness that she is. Her mantra is ride or die. Well, Monica, now you can ride or die in prison. Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Daniel Picillo. I'm Fabio Sementilli's nephew. This is the third time I had to stand in front of the court to speak about my uncle's murder. 3 times I had to stand here, relive the worst pain our family has ever felt, and it never gets easier. My words might fall on Monica's deaf ears, but it's our right to speak on Fabio's behalf. Monica lost the right to call herself a Sementilli the moment she plotted my uncle's murder. She didn't just plan a murder, she lived in his house, slept in his bed, looked in his eyes, and set him up to die. It was cold, it was calculated, and it was evil to the core. While my family was mourning my uncle's death, she pretended to grieve with us, faking tears, letting us console her, lying right to our faces, all while continuing her secret affair. This was the same affair that was ongoing with Robert Baker that led to the planning, attempting, and executing of my uncle's murder. It was so disturbing what we learned during this trial. For example, after my uncle's wake in Toronto, Monica was sending Baker sexual photos from her parents' house. On her wedding anniversary with Fabio in February after his murder, she was out with Baker at a comedy club. She also told people she wanted to walk the golf course in Myrtle Beach to honor Fabio's 50th birthday wishes, but instead she went to a romantic getaway with Baker. I can't even fathom how demonic Monica really is. She didn't feel anything for my uncle. Maybe she never did. Monica always wanted what my uncle had, to be the one everyone admired, respected, and looked to for leadership, the only one who truly mattered. But Fabio earned that with love, loyalty, and hard work. Monica didn't want to earn it that way, so she took the shortcut. She tried to steal the spotlight by destroying the only person who truly did deserve it. But here's the truth. Fabio Sementilli was everything she will never be, and the world now knows it too. After my uncle's murder, Monica personified herself as a victim. That's all she did to fool us. That's how she got away with it for so long, but the act is now over. All her dirty secrets are out in the open. And Monica needs to know, from now on, every time someone searches her name, there are 3 words to be associated: affair, murder, and guilty. That's her real legacy. Monica's future is exactly what she earned: a life behind bars. A cold, filthy cell stripped of comfort and control. No attention, no spotlight, no one left to manipulate, no freedom. And that's what truly destroys people like her. Not just the prison walls, but the reality that she'll be missing everything that matters. Birthdays, weddings, graduations, and even funerals. The world will keep turning without her, while she remains frozen in time, alone in that cell. I hope the weight of a life sentence without parole sinks in and suffocates her every single day. In closing, Fabio mattered. His life meant something, and his death was for nothing. I miss and think about my uncle every day. I have his picture hanging in my office, where I still ask for his advice. I miss him dearly. Monica's decisions and actions left scars we'll carry forever. Judge Cohen, I ask you, don't let anyone else suffer as we have. Please sentence her to the fullest extent. Life without the possibility of parole. For our Fabio and for our family. Thank you.
Your Honor, I have a statement to read before the last couple. This is from Vonda Carino, the former wife of Fabio Sementilli, Luigi's mother. Your Honor, Judge Cohen, I am the person whose life was upended the moment she chose to involve herself with my then-husband Fabio, a married man, the father of my young child. She did not just interfere with a marriage, she dismantled a family. What she took was not just a man, but the foundation of my home, the security of my son Luigi's childhood, and the unity that once held our family together. Because of her, Luigi became a latchkey kid during the week and a suitcase kid every other weekend, living by the terms of a divorce agreement. She was quick to invoke her Italian roots when it suited her, declaring divorce was not an option for her. So why was it expected to be one for me? It began with her taking Fabio from me and my family, and somehow that was not enough for her. In the end, she took him from everyone, with no sorrow, no shame, and no remorse. Having never lifted a finger, she remains blind to the realm of selfishness and sacrifice, concepts foreign to a life untouched by struggle. She took what she wanted because the heaviest decisions she ever faced were whether to sunbathe, hit the gym, get her nails done, or pick an outfit. Choices born of comfort, not cost, and yet even that did not satisfy her. She is nothing more than a parasite who lived off the backs of Fabio's sacrifices and claiming worth from achievements that were never hers to begin with. And with one act, she ripped a father from his children, a son from his mother, a brother from his siblings, an uncle from his nieces and nephews, and a friend from countless hearts. She did not just end a life, she shattered entire generations. She needs to face the weight of that. She got herself exactly where her actions led her, isolated, directionless, and utterly responsible. I thank the court for your time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Anthony Piccillo, Fabio Sementilli's oldest nephew. Honorable Judge Ronald Cohen, I stand before you today not only as a grieving nephew, but as a voice for my uncle Fabio, a man whose life was stolen from him in an act of calculated betrayal and unimaginable cruelty. Fabio was more than a husband, father, brother, son, and friend. He was a radiant person with a huge smile, a booming laugh, and a presence that brought joy and energy wherever he went. He built a beautiful life through hard work, dedication, and extraordinary talent. And he gave everything to the people he loved, especially his children. What happened on January 23rd, 2017 was not a crime of passion or impulse. It was a cold, calculated conspiracy. Monica Sementilli, the woman Fabio trusted most, his wife for over 20 years, helped orchestrate his murder for money, lust, and freedom from a man who had done nothing but love her. I truly believe Monica resented Fabio, not for what he had done wrong, but for what he had accomplished. She envied the attention he received, the success he built, and the respect he earned. Rather than be proud of her husband, she was jealous of him. In her mind, being married to Fabio kept her in the shadow. And so she sought validation elsewhere, telling lies about being a professor when she had no such education, and reinventing herself beside a man who was a convicted sex offender, a former adult film actor, and a racquetball instructor. That betrayal from wife to conspirator is something this family will never recover from. This was not a lone act of violence. This was a plot. A plan executed by three people: Robert Baker, who stabbed Fabio, Christopher Austin, who admitted to joining in the killing, and Monica, who unlocked the door, both literally and figuratively, for this nightmare to happen. She provided access to surveillance systems. She tracked Fabio's movements. She created the window of opportunity. And when it was all over, she put the mask of a grieving widow on. She cried for the cameras while secretly going out with Baker, pretending to walk her husband's favorite golf course, visiting comedy clubs, traveling to Vegas for her lover's birthday, as though she had not just buried her husband. She posted online about how much she missed him while simultaneously mocking his memory with every lie and every celebration. She showed no remorse. Instead, she manipulated her children, her friends, and the public. She did this not only to escape justice, but to continue chasing a fantasy life of luxury, one she expected to fund with life insurance money and stolen assets. She betrayed not just Fabio, but her daughters and stepson. She left them without a father, and worse, with the lie that her mother had no role in it. In doing so, she shattered our family's bond and created a divide that still lingers today. We now live with the unbearable knowledge that Fabio, a man full of life, hope, and generosity, died terrified, restrained, and pleading for mercy. His daughter came home to discover the aftermath. That horror will never leave us. We lost more than Fabio that day. We lost our peace, our sense of family, and our belief that those closest to us can be trusted. We lost a light in our lives, a man who deserved so much better. For all of this, we respectfully ask the court to impose the maximum sentence allowed under the law. Life without the possibility of parole. Monica Sementilli made choices rooted in greed, envy, and manipulation. Choices that cost an innocent man his life. This sentence will not bring Fabio back, but it will send a clear message that such evil, masked behind a smile, cloaked in deceit, will not be forgiven. We will carry Fabio in our hearts every day, and we ask that the sentence reflect the loss of our family has suffered and the extraordinary cruelty of this crime. Thank you, Anthony Piccillo, Fabio's oldest nephew.
Good morning, Your Honor, and members of this court. My name is Loretta Piccillo. I'm Fabio's eldest sister. I stand before you as a sister whose life was shattered by unimaginable betrayal. I am filled with pain, bitterness, and heartbreak. On January 23rd, 2017, my brother Fabio was ambushed in his own backyard, stabbed multiple times. One of those wounds pierced straight through his heart. They silenced him, held his eyes closed, covers his mouth, and he never stood a chance. And the person responsible wasn't a stranger. It was the woman we had welcomed into our family for over 20 years, his wife, Monica. I am ashamed to admit that Monica was my sister-in-law for 2 decades. We treated her like family, and she betrayed all of us. That day, she told Fabio she was going out to get dinner and left the front door unlocked so that her lover and accomplice could enter the home. Monica walked out knowing full well that within minutes, her husband, Fabio, will be viciously attacked and held down. Only a demon could orchestrate the murder of a loving husband, then savagely time it so her own daughter would come home to find her father's lifeless body lying in a pool of blood. Family meant everything to Fabio. I try to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. I still can't make sense of it. How does a woman who had everything desire a dirty life of multiple partners, sex-crazed men act like a slut, wearing sleazy outfits? You had it all, Monica, and you threw it away. You burnt it to the ground. For what? Lust, greed, attention? There's a darkness living inside of you that no mortal can understand your evil treason. You're rotten through and through. No amount of pretending, lying, or manipulating will ever hide the truth. We all saw and heard. She is demonic for the merciless crime on my vulnerable, defenseless man. Fabio's strength was his presence, steady, warm, unforgettable. He had a bold, radiant force that drew people in and made you truly feel seen. His laughter was the soundtrack of every room he entered, deep, joyful, full of life. You always wanted to be near Fabio, because wherever Fabio was, that's where the party was. I miss him more than I can ever express. I want to thank him for being the greatest brother, the heart, the soul of this family. We will never stop speaking his name. I love my brother Fabio. We share childhood memories and laughter that only siblings who had truly adored each other know. I could call him at any time. He'd answer. How are you, my beautiful sister? He would make me laugh. It's all the little things he did that left a mark on my heart for him. And he should still be with us today. My heart is permanently broken. He mentored people across the world. He gave without ever expecting anything in return. I am forever proud of my brother, especially when people from all over the globe share on how Fabio changed their lives, how his kindness, wisdom, and generosity left a lasting mark. As Fabio grew older, he held a broken family together with strength, laughter, and love, never once complaining. My brother was so excited to turn 50 in 2017, and it is agonizing to reminisce of the 50th birthday celebration that never happened. All he wanted was to go to Pebble Beach. How can I ever forget this deceit? How will I ever heal? When will there ever be rest for my heart? I turn to you, Judge Cohen, to facilitate a sentence fit for the monster who took away his right to live. The same woman who sat at our dinner tables, laughed with us at our birthdays and holidays, was the calculating architect of my brother's murder. My heart sank when I came day after day to this courtroom, week after week, afraid to learn that there was an earlier attempt to take Fabio's life on January 22, learning that she was planning on taking his life in a plaza while ordering food for his girls is a visual I can never forget. Monica never displayed an ounce of sorrow or a tear, regret, or responsibility. She sat there with a stupid look on her face and a pout with sheer malice, lips pressed together in a frown, but her eyes gave it all away. I saw arrogance. The prosecution delivered a mountain of evidence, unraveling the truth for the world to see and hear. I was traumatized all over again, day after day, week after week, the chilling truth of the secret life Monica had been living. And hearing Baker and Austin explain the most unbearable details, hearing how they crept up on my brother while he was sitting peacefully in his favorite chair, a place that was supposed to be his sanctuary, turned into the site of his execution. Monica, for this, I pray you will burn in hell. Your pathetic soul can rot from the inside out for all I care. I will recover, knowing that you are in a hellish prison, serving a life sentence, which is still not enough for what you did to Fabio. You manipulated your daughters, your stepson, our family, Fabio's co-workers, and friends, using everyone for blood money so that you can fund that animal of your boyfriend, Baker. In these 8 long years, I never imagined the cruelty I learned of her doing in this courtroom. I am embarrassed of the woman I called my sister-in-law. I never saw the side of her that was sex-crazed and demonic, seeking out swingers and seeking out sex on apps. I will never forget the moment I lost Fabio. Monica called and said, "They killed Fabio." My mother screamed that echoed through the neighborhood. My husband and son sobbed uncontrollably, frozen by the unbearable pain. My husband held me tightly, urging me to breathe before I blacked out again. Only meds would ease the pain and the emptiness. My daughter-in-law left her own birthday party to come be with us. We couldn't even begin to pull ourselves together for a long time. Monica said in front of all of us to carry no negativity in this house. Fabio would say, "Charge that mountain," and repeated it to us. What a gutless bitch, inviting the scumbag Baker to the wake after the funeral. What kind of woman walks through the blood-stained shadows of her husband's death together with his killer and thought that was okay? Every single conversation I had with her was about life insurance money, like that was her greatest tragedy, not the murder of her husband. Just the money. Furious she couldn't get her hands on it, exploiting the people who love Fabio to gain favors and deals, trips, vacation, luxury hotels, and a new luxury car, all to fund her new life. I remember the funeral service in LA, the first time we saw Fabio since he was murdered, bracing myself for the most heartbreaking moment of my life. I witnessed Monica approach the coffin. She glanced at him, then turned and walked away. No tears, no emotion, no attempt to say goodbye. I was stunned. Deep down, something felt off. She wasn't shattered by the violent loss like I was. I didn't know what to make of it. In Canada, Monica walked beside my mother, sat beside her in church. There is a hole in my heart that is so profoundly painful that the devil woman touched my mother in her most fragile time. My mother never saw justice served and died of a broken heart. In court, we learned of the horrifying truth of how she shared her nude photos with her lover. What a sick, demented woman she is. While my brother was being cremated, she was sexting with her lover. This same shameless wench never grieved. She taught the girls to run around and do whatever felt good, just so she could do the same. It was hard to see the heartless testimonies and the lies of Monica's friends and family. I remember feeling horrible and disrespected by Monica at the cemetery when she turned to me holding the urn and so abruptly, so aggressively threw the urn over to me, and I nearly dropped it. I was stunned and I failed to call her out. I felt horrible and disrespected. Monica told us she was broke, unable to pay for her husband's burial. Meanwhile, this tramp was taking trips, flights, and staying in luxury hotels, paying for luxury cars and dinner dates like a cash cow. It makes me physically ill. So many of Monica's lies, her double life, her manipulation, her betrayal, were exposed in court and displayed for the world to see. Even in death, Monica denied Fabio dignity. As a mother, I suffer to understand what is Monica teaching her daughters. That a good man who adored her could be disposable like trash to carry on with a lover? She is guilty of passing down a legacy of cruelty, deceit, and moral emptiness. And while we showed up every day in court to fight for Fabio, her sister Anna Larson and Monica's family never showed any pain, tears, or grief when they saw the murder scene. I wanted to stand up and scream, "Your daughter did this. She viciously murdered him, leaving him to die alone. None of them showed a sign of pain. What a disgusting bunch of animals." It makes my blood boil. They turned their backs on him, just like Monica did. Monica's sister, Anna, took the witness stand and said something I will never forget. She said, "You can have a great marriage and love someone and still cheat on them. It happens all the time." How sickening. That isn't marriage, that's betrayal. You can go ahead and call yourself Mrs. Baker now because you lost the right to the Sementilli name. The world sees you now for what you are, a whore and a murderer. You shattered your daughter's futures, stole their innocence, and destroyed the safety of their world. Let this stand like a punch to your face, to your body, to your rotten soul. I have nightmares where I hear my brother calling for help, confused, scared, and in pain. We struggle every day to pick up pieces and find a way forward, but some scars never fade. This betrayal will forever be part of our family story. This was a deliberate, premeditated execution of the man who loved her, and she never once took responsibility. Monica's betrayal stole more than a life. It stole our peace and the future we once believed in. Fabio would have wanted me to live life to the fullest and heal. Thank you, Your Honor, for your patience and fairness through this long and painful trial. Beth Silverman, words will never be enough. You gave us strength. You never stopped fighting for Fabio, even when we felt broken and lost. You didn't just fight with skill, you fought with your heart. You gave us hope when we had none. Heather Siegel, thank you for your support, your belief in this case, and the time you gave to help pursue justice for Fabio, and we won't forget you for this. To the LAPD detectives, officers, court staff, including Team Fabio, the jury, and every person behind the scenes, thank you for your service. Mom, we did this with you too. I know you're with Fabio. Your voice echoes through mine, and today we stand in your honor. To the people around the world who love Fabio and stood by our side through this nightmare, thank you. Your Honor, I respectfully submit this statement as a victim. I have endured unimaginable pain at the hands of Monica, the woman who orchestrated the brutal murder of my beloved brother, and then watched us suffer without blinking. She is manipulative, calculating, remorseless, and dangerous. She plotted this crime for months. She watched it unfold, and after it happened, she lied and continued her betrayal without shame. She is deserving of the maximum sentence possible today. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court. My name is Monica Sementilli, and I want to apologize in advance if some of my words may offend. There has been no deeper pain than losing Fabio at the hands of betrayal from the woman he honored. What Monica did shattered more than just my life. the details of her lies tore through my heart as I sat in this courtroom. Every single day, I feel pain as I think of Fabio, of what he might have felt and saw as his life flashed before him just before his death. The faces of Baker and Austin repeatedly attacking him, and knowing that Monica was behind his heinous attack. It haunts me to think how much my brother suffered, that it brings me to my knees. He was sitting in his special chair, the one place he treasured, and it tears a strip from my soul thinking about Monica's sentencing and how I pray she has a life in a prison for her life sentence. Fabio Sementilli was more than a man. He was a beacon of light, of love, and of loyalty. He lived with a full heart, opening his life to help others see their potential. I loved him every day, and I miss him terribly. He treated his family and friends with respect and was loyal to a fault. Fabio grew up with no father from the age of 11, and our mother sacrificed to raise a family with dignity. Since the day I met Monica over 25 years ago, I respected her like a sister because my brother wanted to build a life with her. Reminiscing is too painful, and it deepens the wounds. I've spent the last 6 months learning about the depths of the deceit and the evil Monica brought into our lives. Every day has the details of her unfaithfulness, her greed, and her lack of accountability unfolded during the trial. I relived the pain of my loss and the merciless murder of my brother Fabio. We came to this courtroom for 72 days seeking justice, and I found solace in the testimonies of people who loved and honored my brother. With little to no sleep, I wanted to be here in this very courtroom for him. I am forever proud of my brother, and I will always remember his boyish smile, beaming with pride as he created his magic, styling and shaping hair like a magician. He loved being a hairstylist behind the chair. He worked hard as a vice president for the Wella division at P&G. With his team, he proudly chartered new paths and took huge strides to make a difference in the hair industry. For my brother, this was an American dream. His memory will forever live, especially in the hearts of hundreds of thousands of people who support him and our family. Today, I want to mark the first day of my journey on letting go of the pain, the horror, and the betrayal I witnessed here in this courtroom. I will no longer hold back. I will forge a path to return to a life filled with joy, family, and friends. I was lucky to work alongside Fabio for over 30 years, and I would often hear him speak highly of his family and his children, especially his wife, Monica. He treated her like royalty, purchased a family home on Queen Victoria Street in LA, and called her his queen. He couldn't wait to get home to his girls and proudly posted about his family. He called her Poots. The world is grieving as they learned of the details of her treachery, an attack planned for nothing more than lust and greed. I am certain that if Fabio had known Monica wanted to be treated like a slut by a sex offender, he wouldn't have ever had to work so hard to offer her a beautiful life. Just over 8 years ago, everything changed. Our lives were turned upside down, and we found ourselves drowning in sorrow and despair. The pain of discovering the extent of Monica's betrayal, her involvement with Baker, her manipulation of our family, and ultimately the cold-blooded murder of my brother. It chokes me. Sometimes I can't describe the agony. I talk about him every day It's the only thing that helps me cope. I speak his name to replace the pain of grief with the sound of love. It's the only way I know how to survive this nightmare. There are days I cannot even breathe as my throat chokes. My throat closes and I can't speak. I cannot function because the weight of Fabio's murder sits so heavily on my chest. As I learn Monica and her entire family refuse to even say his name, as if pretending he never existed relieves them of their guilt. I've watched in horror, and I've been put through hell as Monica and the Crescentini family taught Fabio's daughters not to grieve, not to cry, and not to honor their father, and ignore the facts and the evidence, having no respect for authority, this court, and the pursuit of justice. Sometimes I wish I could just shake them to show them that they are being lied to. They withheld Fabio's property, a memento from my dying mother. Her heart was broken, and none of them cared. My nieces should be asking the questions, why did our mother bring that predator into our home? Why did she let him sit at our home table? Why did she let him sleep in their father's bed? They should have been fighting to uncover how their mother could be capable of something so vile. Monica destroyed their foundation, their sense of truth, and their ability to grieve. It's heartbreakingly clear she never protected her daughters. She was using them. Your Honor, what Monica did to her daughters and to my nephew Luigi is unforgivable. This is yet another crime in itself. Her sentence should reflect more than just murder. It should reflect the long-term psychological destruction she caused in their lives. She had the audacity to demand a trial and parade around like a woman wronged. And in the end, she exposed not only her shameful affair, but the truth of the kind of mother she was. She is a complete and utter stupid bitch. Watching her dressed like a slut for Baker, living 6 months off of blood money, only a devil can manipulate a reality to suit her comforts. In all my worst nightmares, I could never have fathomed this calculated plan. Monica, you are a demon. She can't even look at me. And all your actions and your deceit has told us so. I hope every blood dollar you and your Crescentini family have is used on meds. Traded a beautiful life for trashy garages, dirty beds, Pinot Grigio for tubes of semen from a repulsive convicted sex offender. You didn't just kill Fabio, you humiliated him. You let him carry guilt for working hard while you carried on with a degenerate sex offender. You didn't just kill Fabio. You betrayed him in the most despicable way. Then you held my grieving mother and you pretended to mourn Fabio when you were the killer. On June 14, after your arrest, our lives became a living hell. And your family treated us like predators and not the victims we are. For this colossal betrayal, those who sided with you in silence cannot pretend today to have supported my brother. I get chills recapping the testimony of Deborah Obad, her sister Anna, and my nieces. Shame on them. Shame on all of them. Mena, Grant, sisters, cousins, aunts, and every one of them. For not honoring my brother during the trial. Deborah Obad enjoyed the drama. And I can never understand this sick obsession. She called me the night of the arrest in June and said, Monica's family is looking for the best lawyer money can buy. The Crescentini family stood by and allowed Monica's treachery to fester. The silence is as violent as the act itself. She traded lust for love, family for filth, decency for destruction. She masterminded this egregious murder on my brother. She resorted to murder to make room for Baker. She did this because no one would have accepted that deplorable man. Had she ever divorced Fabio, especially her discerning family, that is why she needed Fabio's life insurance money to dress him up and make him look like a successful man. She enjoyed Baker treating her like a whore, shopping at thrift stores for slutty, skanky clothes. This sleazeball had $40 in the bank. She even paid for the restaurant bills and the hotel bills, all while leaving her girls home alone. What mother does that? There is a deep shame that follows me every day. The shame that comes from what she did to Fabio, from the utter lack of dignity she was shown by the woman he trusted. My mind races and I ache with agony for the way he died alone, bleeding to death, and knowing she had set him up. He knew she had set him up. This overwhelming grief hits me like a ton of bricks. She turned a devoted husband and father into a victim of the most grotesque betrayal any of us have ever known. Her family and friends knew of this monster and felt it was okay to hide this from Fabio. And now they hide behind their defense lawyers, thinking a trial was going to set them free. That humiliation, that weight, it doesn't go away. I am ashamed of this disgusting things that she did behind my brother's back. I'm ashamed she degraded his honor to be in the arms of that gross, low-life pig. The name Sementilli is dignity, hard work, and love. And I demand Monica to surrender it. Despite the mountain of undeniable evidence, Monica was the mastermind behind Fabio's murder. Anna Larson claimed her sister can be trusted. The internet is filled with disgust and rage on how Monica manipulated the lives of hundreds of people who genuinely love Fabio. If there was ever a case that called for the death penalty, this is it. Monica Crescentini and the co-conspirators acted with such depravity, such calculated cruelty, such complete disregard for human life, that it's clear they represented exactly the kind of evil for what the death penalty was intended. She could have chosen divorce and let my brother live. This disgusting pig before you had 2 legs, which the whole world saw, and she could have quite capably go to work to earn a living to support her and her sex-crazed fantasies instead of choosing a murder. After years of agony, the truth has triumphed. On April 11, Monica Sementilli was found guilty, and in that moment, for the first time in over 8 years, I felt the weight of injustice begin to lift. I will carry with me for the rest of my life a deep gratitude for the 12 individuals who honored their sacred duty. They listened and they made sure Monica was held accountable for all the destruction she caused. Judge Cohen, I thank you for your strength, your fairness, and for making our family feel justice did not fail. You created a courtroom where truth was protected and my brother's dignity restored, even in death. Thank you, Beth Silverman and Heather Segal, for your strength, the intelligence, and the unwavering pursuit of justice, making us proud beyond words. You fought with dignity, with respect, and with an unshakable resolve. There were many small and victorious moments throughout this trial, moments when I watched in awe as the prosecution brilliantly uncovered the truth and brought to light the grotesque and damning evidence of Monica's sorcery. Each moment was a step closer to justice. The Sementilli family loves you all. Today, a life sentence will set us free for the wretched pain she put us through. If you see me smiling, let it be a reminder that Monica is spending her life sentence in a California jail, living hell on earth. It is obvious that Monica tried to manipulate the world into believing that she was a victim. But here's the part she did not ever anticipate: getting caught. And what a beautifully orchestrated sting operation the world watched during the arrest. Monica will never again experience the joy, love, or excitement that Fabio brought into her room. She will never know what it's like to be truly loved again the way Fabio loved her. Your Honor, I must admit, I Googled what happens in a female prison. I needed to know. And I read that the inmates ensure newcomers get a brutal welcome. Bathrooms and showers will always be perpetually nauseated with feces and urine bombs, disgusting food, female on female, and poor hygiene. And I can't deny I like the sounds of that. With every holiday, I will grow more at peace knowing Monica's eating food that even the rats don't want to eat. In honor of my brother, I am ready to make the most of life because that's what Fabio would have wanted for me. I will cherish the memories of his love, his laughter, and his strength. With my grandkids and my family, I will always remember him with pride. To my beloved brother, Fabio, you can finally rest now. Let your love and our words rest your soul. Justice has been served here on earth, and the burden you carried in silence is no longer yours to bear. You are free. Let peace wrap around you like a warm blanket, and may the pain of betrayal and sorrow be left behind. Go now. Go to the arms of those who went before you, our father, our mother, our uncles and cousins. They're waiting to welcome you into God's eternal embrace. You are safe now. No more suffering, no more fear, only light, love, and peace. In honor of you, I will always remember the man you were, no matter what. You always put others first. I will make sure your legacy endures. I will continue to talk about you and ensure you are never forgotten. I will keep your daughters in my prayers and your son in my heart, and hope that one day that the Crescentini family will cut off the unhealthy hold they have on your daughters. And for you, Monica, your name will forever be synonymous with betrayal, deception, and the murder of Fabio Sementilli. I urge all his loved ones to dedicate today, June 23rd, to Fabio's memory. Break open champagne and celebrate with us, and include our glorious brother Fabio in all your prayers, because Fabio won, the prosecution won, and the Sementilli family won! Thank you.
If I can have a moment, Ron.
Good morning, Your Honor, members of the court, and all present. My name is Jessica, and I'm the oldest daughter of Monica and Fabio. in the spirit of trying to heal from this very horrible situation, I'd like to speak about my parents, of how I remember them. Every day growing up, my dad would send my sister and me off into the world with the same words: be smart, be strong, chin up and charge the mountain. That mantra became the foundation of how we live our lives. My dad was our pillar of strength, steady, present, full of wisdom. He taught us how to be brave, how to be kind, and how to show up for the people we love. He taught us to climb our mountains, no matter how steep, like this one right here. I miss him every goddamn day. I think about him constantly. I talk about him to my friends, to my family, to anyone who will listen to me, because I want to keep his memory alive. I often watch old home videos just to hear his voice, to hear his laugh. I want to remember what it felt like to have a dad, to be wrapped in that kind of love and the protection. I wanted nothing more in my life than to make him proud, to see his smile when I succeeded, and to hear him say that he believed in me. We used to have these family meetings, and at the end of each one, we'd all put our hands in together, and we'd chant Sementilli power. I used to think it was so cheesy. Now I treasure it. I'd give anything to just sit in one more of those meetings. I know how lucky I was to have a dad like him. He was the best dad anyone could ask for. I have to remind myself that it's better to have had him and lost him than to have never had him at all. I still feel him around me. I hear his voice all the time. When someone I love says something he would have said, I know it's him there with me. When I got my acceptance letter to UCLA, all I wanted to do was to call my dad and to tell him. When I started to cry, heartbroken that I couldn't share that with him, I looked up and I saw someone wearing a sweatshirt with his alma mater on it. I know that was my dad, and I know that was him telling me that I'm here, and I see you, and I hold on to all moments like that. And then there's my mom, my rock. When you're young, you don't realize that your parents are figuring out life too. It's their first time too. My mom had me when she was my age now, and I think about that a lot. How young she was, how brave she had to be. She moved away from her own life and family to support my dad's career, and she did it without asking for anything in return. She gave her entire self to us. She was always there at every school event, every heartbreak, every milestone. She's the most supportive, selfless, funny, and loving person that I know. And she's strong. She taught my sister and I what it means to be a woman, to show up, to fight for your family, and to give love freely. Growing up, I had a learning disability in math, and there were so many teachers I told my mom that college wasn't in the cards for me. But my mom never let me believe that. She told me I could do anything I set my mind to. And because of her, I not only went to college, I made the dean's list, I graduated, I got into the #1 public university in the country, and now I'm earning my master's degree. That's the power of a mother's love. For the past 8 years, my sister and I have lived with an open wound. And during these last 8 years, my grandparents, my aunts, my uncle, and my 3 cousins uprooted their lives so that they could come to Los Angeles to take care of us when no one else would. Myself, my aunt, and my grandmother needed to go to family court to ensure that my sister Isabella, who was 16 at the time, was not taken from us and placed into foster care. We needed to find a safe place to live and rebuild and reshape our lives. Now we're trying our best to move forward. We only had 5 months to grieve our father before we lost our mother too. I truly thought this trial would bring some kind of closure, that we'd be able to grieve together, the 3 of us, and begin healing. But instead, my sister and I are going to be doing what we've done the last 8 years. We're going to pick each other up, we're going to carry on, and we're going to stay strong. Now that we're grieving both our parents, I won't have my dad to walk me down the aisle one day. I won't have my mom to help me when I become a mother myself. And yet I will keep going. I'll keep fighting for justice, for the truth, and for my mom. I am mindful of the importance of respecting the court's procedures and the ongoing legal process. We hope the appeal will be granted and that true justice will prevail. We respectfully ask this court to please consider my sister and I when deciding where my mom will serve her sentence. I strongly believe that being close to our mom will help us heal emotionally and psychologically from this horrible tragedy. To my mom, I love you, and I am giving you every ounce of strength I have for the days ahead. To my dad, I love you so much. I miss you even more. Please keep sending me your signs. Please help me persevere. Sementilli Power. It was never just a chant. It's who we are, and it is what will carry us through. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sementilli.
Good morning, Judge Cohen, members of the court, and all present. My name is Isabella. I am the youngest daughter of Monica and Fabio Sementilli. I stand here to tell you about the wonderful home my parents made for me. I urge you all to reconsider the picture that was painted of our family dynamic. I had the best childhood thanks to my mom and my dad. I had the most supportive parents who created a safe and loving home. My father was a man that I respected, trusted, and leaned on for comfort. He was front row with my mom, laughing and clapping at all of my school plays. He always asked me about my life, my friends. He truly cared to know about his daughter. Despite traveling a lot, my father made an effort to be present when he was home. He really listened to me. He taught me how to stand up for myself while still being respectful, and told me from a young age that the only opinion about myself that matters is my own. When you go to judge somebody, look in the mirror because that's usually what you want to fix about yourself. I'm grateful to have learned that so young. I get my hard work ethic from my father. He would jokingly ask who would become the hairdresser in the family and continue his legacy. I didn't know at the time that I would be the one following in his footsteps, but I thank him for guiding me to find my passion and lifelong career. I will continue my father's legacy in the hair industry, filling some big shoes, but in my own way. To those who knew my father, you also know how funny he was. My tears would turn to laughter in seconds. I'm confident I can speak on behalf of my sister and brother that we had the best father. Not many people got to know my father when he was home with his family. Once the suit and tie came off, that was the real Fabio I knew. and I feel lucky for that. My mother was the best. She did everything for me. She gave up her career, left her family, all to support my dad and give us a good life. She encouraged me to try new things, drove me to and from school, friends' houses, rehearsals, helped me with homework, all with a smile on her face. She built up my self-esteem after a heartbreak. She let me wear her dresses to school dances. She was reliable, and I trusted her with anything. She cooked dinner from scratch almost every night, and really emphasized the importance of sitting at dinner together every night as a family. She hosted dinners for my father's colleagues at our home often, even some of them sitting at our table for holidays. She is my biggest cheerleader and one of the most selfless women I know. Non-judgmental, there to listen and to support me. Her family was her life, and I'm grateful for that every day. Many people think because I stand by my mother that I don't miss my father. Let me say right now to those watching, that is false. I think about my dad every single day, wondering what he would be saying or what his advice would be. My dad was the biggest loss of my life, and it pains me that he will never know this version of me. But I know for a fact he would be proud of me speaking today, honoring our family in a positive way. I often reminisce on the days when I would be inside in the middle of my piano lesson, and my parents would be outside in the backyard. We could hear my dad's laugh from across the entire house. Then I'd look outside and see them laughing together. They spent every night outside, talking, laughing, enjoying each other's company. They were best friends, and I didn't know how lucky I had it. My parents were the best wedding guests. They would take over the dance floor and dance all night long. That carried over to dancing at home while cooking dinner, where my sister and I would often join them. Those are the moments that I miss the most. Now I hope you can understand why I stand by both of my parents. They were the greatest people I've ever known. I never got to grieve my father's death. I thought I could do that when this trial was over. However, that is not the case. I am now grieving two parents, no father to walk me down the aisle, or play outside with my future kids, no mother to go to for advice or comfort. Despite all of my heartbreak, tragedy, and loss at only 25 years old, I somehow still have hope. I have hope justice will prevail over time. I have hope that I'll have a beautiful family one day and give them the childhood that I had. And I hope that I will heal from this nightmare of a situation. I'm hopeful because of my friends and family who have supported me, genuinely, the last 8 years. My grandparents, aunts, uncle, cousins who uprooted their whole lives, left their own families to come to California and help us. Thank you to my extended family for your continuous love and support. And thank you to the complete strangers who have reached out to me with support and kind words, showing me there are still kind and compassionate people out there who believe in me and my mother. I'm not sure why this happened to my family, but this does not and will not define me. This has made me work hard at building a beautiful life that I deserve, which is what my parents would have wanted. To my mom and dad, I love you, I miss you, and I will forever remember you dancing in the kitchen. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further, other people?
No.
I'm sorry, we have one more here?
morning. Good morning, Judge Cohen, members of the court, and everyone present. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Anna Crescentini, and I am the sister of Monica. I'm speaking on behalf of my entire family. Words cannot describe the absolute sorrow and horror we felt when Fabio Sementilli was murdered in January of 2017. Fabio was an incredible man, an inspirational human being who had a larger-than-life personality, a boisterous laugh. He was a person who was loved, cherished, and adored by everyone in our family. To my sister Barbara, he was not only a brother-in-law, but a mentor, a confidant, pillar of strength, love, and unwavering support. To my parents, Fabio was a son, a man they loved and respected. Fabio was an amazing uncle to my children. He was a caring father and an overall wonderful person. Although more than 8 years have passed since his murder, we still have not processed our grief over his death. We do not believe this feeling of sadness will ever fade. Every day my family and I remember him. We talk about him all the time, recalling all the good times we shared, family vacations we took together, camping trips, the many, many dinners, holidays, birthdays, and events we celebrated together. He was a major part of not only my life, but in the lives of my 3 children, my husband, my parents, and especially my sister Barbara, who adored and loved him. What happened was a tragedy that tore through our family and nearly broke us. Although we shed tears over his death, we have not had time to really grieve or mourn him properly the way we want to. The reason I think it is obvious. It is, after all, why I'm standing here today. We, her family, are devastated. My elderly parents had their hearts ripped out. Not only did they lose Fabio, someone they considered their son, but now they have also lost their daughter. This ordeal has left all of us emotionally, mentally, and psychologically drained. On behalf of my mom, my dad, my sister Barbara, my husband Grant, and my 3 children, we would like to thank all of those who have reached out to us to express their love and support. This includes all of our extended families, our friends, and especially to the complete strangers who have reached out to us during this horrible ordeal. In a world full of so much hate, it has meant everything to us to know that there are still compassionate and sympathetic people out there. I miss Fabio, my brother-in-law, who was always there for me. He was a wonderful man, a great friend, and a fantastic uncle. But I will also miss my sister, my best friend, the person I played cards with, spent many afternoons raising kids with, the sister I shared everything with, the sister that I know is loyal, honest, loving, kind, generous, and so full of life. We all miss her, and we will forever love her. We, her family, stand by her and will continue to fight until the whole truth comes to light. We ask for privacy and understanding as we continue this journey, and we trust that justice, in its truest sense, will ultimately prevail. Thank you.
asking for probation. The defendant is statutorily ineligible for probation pursuant to the dictates penal section 190 and 190.2, and consequently probation is denied. As counsel has pointed out, I do have discretion under penal section 654 as to which count to impose sentence. Listening to the evidence in this matter, I do find that the defendant was the mastermind in this conspiracy to commit murder. Baker did not have the intelligence to plan such a brutal, well-thought-out slaughter. The defendant was the prime mover in this execution of a human being, and consequently, I am utilizing my discretion to impose the more serious of the sentences. Although this is not before me, Penal Section 1385.1 states that a court does not have discretion to strike a special circumstance that is found true by the jury. The legislature has, in its wisdom, had such bills before it that would take away this lack of discretion. For purposes of any future legislature, I must state now that if I had the discretion to strike a special circumstance, in this particular case, I would not. For the crime which defense been convicted in count 1, a violation of penal section 187, subsection A, murder in the first degree, with special circumstances having been found true pursuant to section 190.2, subsection A, subsection 1, and 190.2, subsection A, subsection 15. We sentence the court as follows. Probation is denied for the reasons I have stated. Defendant is sentenced to state prison for the term prescribed by law, which is life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Yes. As to count 2, violation of section 182, subsection A, subsection 1, conspiracy to commit murder. Defendant is sentenced to state prison for the term prescribed by law, which in that case is 25 years to life. The sentence in count 2 is stayed pursuant to penal section 654. Said stay to become permanent upon the successful completion of the sentence in count 1. Defendant is levied a $10,000 restitution fine pursuant to penal section 1202.4, subsection B. An $80 security fee, which is $40 per count. A $60 criminal court assessment, which is $30 per count. She is to submit a tissue sample for a DNA data bank pursuant to penal section 296. She is given the following credits of 2,932 actual days, 0 days conduct credits pursuant to penal section 2933.2. This time, ma'am, I have to advise you that you have the right to appeal to the Court of Appeal from the judgment of this court. You have, if you wish to appeal, you have 60 days to file your notice of appeal. It must be filed in this court and not in the Court of Appeal. It must state that you are appealing, what it is you're appealing from. It must be signed by you or your attorney. If you appeal, you have a right at no cost to you to a transcript of the trial court proceedings that's provided by the California Rules of Court. If you appeal and you do not have the money to hire an attorney, one will be appointed for you free of charge by the appellate court. You understand your appellate rights, ma'am? Very well. We are done.
Your Honor, could I ask one additional thing? The court has any discretion? We're asking that the court recommend that she be housed in CIW, which is a closer state prison facility for the benefit of her children who obviously want to continue seeing her.
I cannot tell the Department of Corrections Rehabilitation where to place their inmates.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you. I'm good. I know everything from the trial. I figured.
Some of the stuff is too. Yeah, and I